All right. Thank you for joining, folks. Let's get started here. Welcome to our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM live demo webinar. I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing for Security here at Sumo Logic. As a matter of quick housekeeping, this live webinar is being recorded, and I'll take some time at the end for any questions you may have. And while I'm speaking, feel free to click the Q&A button in your webinar window, and you can jot down any questions that you might have. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can at the end. Now, we've allotted 30 minutes, and I want to ensure I can get you folks on to your next meeting on time. So let's dive right in. Let me begin with a quick overview of who we are. We are Sumo Logic. We've built this continuous intelligence platform for observability and security. And this is what's analyzing exabyte of data every single day. And it's doing so by more than 100,000 users across the globe, with more than 2,100 customers, backed by more than 800 employees globally here at Sumo Logic. Now, specifically, we're talking today that we're going to be using our continuous intelligence platform. We offer this broad range of security solutions, and it ranges from, on the left here, audit and compliance, all the way to the right of our cloud source solution. So today, I'm kind of zeroing in and focusing on our Cloud SIEM solution. That includes our Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on module as well. Check out Sumo Logic's website webinar page if you want to register for one of the other live demos for these other solutions as well. Common challenges for security analysts. Some of the folks I see online here, looks like you've got a great spread of different folks from different areas within the organization, within IT and security teams, DevSecOps folks too as well. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, let's just talk about the pain that security analysts in general are going through. On the left here, digital transformation, in the recent growth in organizations migrating to the cloud, it's created new challenges with security blind spots and legacy security tools. And frankly, SIEMs weren't built for the cloud. And this has resulted in more threat visibility gaps than ever before. In the middle here, speaking of existing security tools, many SOC teams are tired of the slow, inefficient, and manual workflows that they've been having to endure. And with the recent shifts in the threat landscape, and new attack surfaces with cloud adoption, security analysts really need help with speeding up investigation and response times. And on the right, another top challenge is that security teams are spending way too much time and resources on chasing low priority security alerts and false positives. All of the increasing alerts and noise has continued to burn out team members with alert fatigue. And this has made it clear to CISOs and SOC directors that this is no longer a human scale problem because they simply just can't hire their way out of this situation. Now, our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM solution offers easy to use cloud native collection and threat detection for security professionals like yourselves. So we help we help your SOC team to really eliminate security blind spots by correlating threats across all of your on-prem, public cloud, and hybrid environments. We're also able to help you speed up your threat investigations and combat lost time that you've spent due to manual workflows with your legacy SecOps tools. And finally, we help our customers cut through the noise by automatically triaging and prioritizing the security threat that matter most to your SOC and to your organization as well. And for this cutting through the noise benefit, let me drill further down into the alert fatigue challenge and put some numbers to it while I explain what makes our Cloud SIEM truly unique. This is actually a real world example of a global manufacturer. They sent more than 10 billion logs and event data to Sumo Logic for a 45-day proof of value or eval, which our Cloud SIEM automatically ingested and normalized into records. And in total, we fired 9.8 million signals. Now, signals is something that other vendors might refer to as a notable event. Now, most traditional SIEMs use correlation rules to get to this point, while other solutions try to increase alert fidelity further, requiring substantial rule stacking and tuning, machine learning, risk scoring. But in general, they generally stop right here because they do not capture unknown threat patterns. And ultimately, security teams need to filter the remaining alerts and throw level 1 security analysts at this problem for alert triage. But even that can still result in errors and other issues, as well as taking too much of the precious time. So Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM solution uniquely provides real automation of security analyst workflows. Now, we use something called our insight engine. I'll show that to you in the demo here today. Our insight engine is an adaptive signal clustering algorithm, and it's implemented as a heuristic-based artificial reasoning system. Now, what that means is every time a rule fires, it creates a signal with a unique signature, a reference to an entity, and a severity score. Now, this insight engine also provides a powerful view back in time, evaluating all the signals associated with an entity for up to the last 30 days. So we're not talking just 24-hour look back, 48 hours, we're going back a month. And when our algorithm determines that the aggregated risk surpasses a threshold, it generates an insight, it fires. And what that is it's a structured set of information optimized to accelerate alert triage. Really, what I like to think of it as, it's our opinionated view of something that your security analysts need to look at and investigate immediately. This is the top threat. This is what you need to focus on. And this is really a sophisticated layer of analysis because our insight engine allows our Cloud SIEM to detect advanced threats and low and slow under the radar attacks, as well as higher speed direct threats coming at you. And on top of this, we offer that exabyte cloud scale and dramatically improve the signal to noise ratio for customers. And in fact, this organization that I'm showing here actually witnessed a signal to insight ratio of 56,494 to 1. And that led to 175 insights, of which they validated 65 incidents over the course of that 45 day. Now, this customer was struggling with a 98% false positive rate. And so the fact that we were actually able to bring that down to a false positive rate of 9%, mathematically, that's a 90.2% reduction in false positives. So just round that to 90%, let's say. So a 90% false positive reduction, taking 10 billion records and getting it down to 65 incidents. I really have to ask you folks, I realize that we can't talk, it's a one-way street, but you could feel free to drop this in the Q&A if you want. Like, how long would this take with your current tools that you've got, the current processes that you use, and the staff, the workers that you have, the dedicated analysts that you currently have in your SOC or in your security team to be able to get to this? So this is really, I just wanted to use this to set up the example and the context of why people are looking to a Cloud SIEM, why they're specifically looking at Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM, and how we can actually help in a day in the life of an analyst's life with Sumo Logic and our Cloud SIEM. So automatically detecting and correlating real-time threats, incidents, not just in the cloud, but across your on-prem as well, and hybrid data sources. But it's so much better if I show you. So let's flip over and get into the product. Minimize my browser here, pop over just another tab. This is our user interface for the heads-up display. And this is, as you can tell, this is really built by analysts for security analysts. This is the secondary purpose-built UI. We also have our traditional Sumo Logic user interface for deeper search if you want to go down that pathway and start visualizing with dashboards and pre-built queries and stuff. That's why here I'm actually focusing in the SOC, person sitting in the chair, or people sitting in the chair in your SOC, security analyst, would probably have this up on the wall. A lot of our customers choose to do that because then it becomes this great visualization of what is your current state. This is a real-time page, automatically updating. I'm not having to hit the space bar or refresh or anything. It's just pushing updates and refreshing for us. Let me take your eyes. I know it's probably at the center of the screen at the Insight radar. I'll get to that. Let's just get you up to the upper left-hand corner here. This is indicating the status of this SaaS delivered solution for you folks. I'm looking at a 2-day period of time, but I could change that to 4 hours, or I could make that as far out as 7 days if I wanted to. But if I'm looking at 2 days, a 48-hour period, I've brought in 15 million records. So of all the structured and unstructured data, I've brought it in, I've normalized it, parsed it automatically in our stream ingest. Now I've got records. And that apparently is up 2% in this period prior to that, comparatively, a 2-day period prior, with its a 2% increase. Now, of that, our rules are firing, and we've fired off and created 1 million signals out of those 15 million records. Now, this is actually down about 2% in the last 2-day period. And this, as I showed you earlier on that inverted pyramid slide, this is really where other SIEM vendors and next-gen SIEM vendors are all stopping because they're just not able to go further. They've presented you these enriched alerts or notable events. We call them signals. And that's not where Sumo stops, though. We go farther with our insight engine. And this is where we're whittling down those 1 million signals in a 2-day period to just a handful of insights, much more approachable, much more easy to actually get to with you and your team members. So here in this case, 2-day period, 16 insights. Now I've got some additional information here, like the metrics of how long it's taken from the detection and the response, the remediation phases for those insights. So 4 days, 11 hours, 1 day for remediation. I can also see my insight status. They have different colors, and insights are represented in that center mass of the insight radar as little triangles. And each triangle is represented with a color. And new is red, in progress. So one of you or your team members are working actively on a particular insight. That would turn it to this yellowish orange color. Custom would get into the concept of all of your workflows that you currently enjoy with your team from your threat investigation and response workflows. You probably have names and titles of that. Well, you can customize the Sumo Logic platform. You can bend us to your will to actually then mimic what your current flows are. And so those customized columns in a Kanban board view or table view of status of an insight, how it's being worked, if it's a level 1, level 2, level 3, response, emailing team members or whatever your process is, would show up as white triangles, and those would be custom. And when an insight is closed, it turns green. And that's a great thing. You could actually gamify this, you could have, for those of you CISOs and SOC directors on the call here, you could be looking at this next chart on the left, seeing how many are created in red, how many are closed in white, and you're just trying to flip those triangles from red to green as quickly as you can. Now, this is a handful of insights that you can get to. You still have the ability, the right, the privilege to dig into all the different signals, 2,000 in this particular period here that we could be rifling through. So we haven't taken that away from you. It's just that we're serving up on a silver platter those insights that are most important to your organization. There's something that we found through the different aggregated risk of potentially disparate signals that we've been able to cluster together and realize, oh, this is actually a potential incident that needs investigation. And that's what we call an insight. So from the middle of the screen here, you can see the insight radar, the records represented as 15 million. Now you can visualize and see the ebb and flow as records are being ingested. You might have dips, you might have peaks when you bring on a new detection tools, like maybe you've now bought and invested in CrowdStrike. Well, as soon as you turn that on, you're going to start bringing in more records. So you might see a large escalation, a spike in records coming in. Same with signals. Signals are what's emanating radially and these bar graphs. And as you hover, as I'm hovering over each of these, you can see the timestamp of where I'm at in this 40-minute period on January 17th, 17,379 signals fired then, whereas 19,000 signals fired the next day between 2:30 a.m. and what appeared to be, 2:40 and 3:20 in the morning. But then in the center, going around the horn clockwise, based on the time period that you've chosen, which is 2 days, you start to see these insights. And you can click on these and drill down. If a bunch of insights happen in a short period of time, based on the current view of the graph, they'll collapse and they're stacked on top of each other. But when you hover, you'll see that I've got 2 new insights. So there's 2 red triangles here, but I also have 1 in progress insight. So there's technically an orange triangle that's just hidden underneath this one particular spot in time. But most analysts, this is on the board. But when you're actually at your rig, at your station, you're probably just going to drill right down into insights, 7 a.m. on a Monday morning, let's say. You've got 2 different ways of looking at the data. Some analysts prefer to see this list or table view. You could scroll through, you can get a lot of information in one screen here. The creation date of the insight, the dwell time, 14 hours. The age is at 36 minutes now that the insight has been created. I can see the insight name, which has a unique identifier number, 4337, and also a description. But I didn't have to, you don't have to, the analysts don't have to create those names. The system is automatically generating that name based on what the signals are, which is based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework and the different tactics and techniques that we're seeing, that we're responding to. And we also have those tags for those tactics or techniques shown right here as well. Excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. So when you're seeing this one particular insight, I'm seeing the severity score is considered high, the entity, and everything is tied to an entity. And that could be an IP address, MAC address, host name, or a custom entity too. It could be somebody's, like maybe the CEO's specific endpoint, laptop machine. Signal data, this is the number of unique signals and when the last was seen of those signals. And then a great little baseball card heat map style off on the right-hand side here, going from left to right, indicating the time span and when a signal is firing, and up and down in the vertical axis from 0 to 10, with 5 is the severity at the midline. So when you start to see an awful lot of signals below the severity of 5, then you realize this is potential stealthy recon and attack methodology here, because they're all a low severity signal that's coming through. But as I mentioned before, when enough of these signals with enough of the severity risk that's attributed to it by our threat engineering content team, that is what's adding up to a number. I believe the number is a default of 12, and that's adjustable, working with your technical account manager. And when we see it hit that 12, that's what fires the insight. That is the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back. And that is what's presenting these insights to you, with the ability for you to then drill down into the insight. Now, other analysts prefer to see more of a Kanban board style view. And this is what I was talking about before, when you can actually then visually see, just like on your wall or your at your office on the whiteboard, and you start moving Post-its across as you're doing your workflows. Here also in the product, you can have these customized workflows, email the team, tier 3. It could go on, customizable to follow your workflows with the names. Now there's an order to the operations. New is always on the left, in progress is always the next one, and then closed is always off to the right. But then it's up to you to change and add whatever you want in the middle there. So generally, again, day in the life, you start out looking at the new probably. I've got 185 in total that haven't been gotten to yet. And they're also organizable and filterable through based on the event time, ascending or descending, the naming, sort, severity, also confidence score. Quick little background on confidence score. We're actually looking at our global intelligence service. And when other similar, other customers for Cloud SIEM are closing out their insights based on the signals that generated that insight, and they're closing it out, they're saying, yep, it's gone, we took care of that, or it's closed and it's a false positive, or there was something that was different about it. That information is anonymously collected and stored, and then we're using that to then predict and look for the next potential insights that others around the world, other customers might see. So now I, as a customer, am seeing that I have a insight 4337. Apparently, it's exhibiting initial access considerations as part of the MITRE attack framework. And it's been given a confidence score, a global confidence score of a 95. That's a high confidence level that this is truly actionable and is not a false positive. Versus when you see maybe a confidence score of 35, it goes from a scale from 0 to 100. So when I see a lower number, that might actually be inadvertently a false positive, because some other customer or analyst at some other time has seen that same behavior, that same insight and signals that make up that insight. And that is what is telling this information. So it helps analysts in the day in the life understand a little bit more about maybe what they should address. Because if I have 185 insights to get through, maybe I want to hit the 95s first before I start chasing down 5s. So that was the spirit of that product, of that feature in the product, and that is what we added in. So when you want to investigate and look at these insights, you basically scroll through. I could see in order, I can just choose insight 4336. This one is apparently exhibiting command and control with execution. Across the upper right here is a timeline view where I can see the different signals as they're firing. And apparently these all fired at about the same time. It looks like there was a Z-scaler, elevated risk score event came through, had a severity of 3, so not too bad. It was made up of one record. And I could see all the information at a glance, but go deeper by drilling down onto that particular signal and then get more information about the tagging, the metadata, the rule that actually fired this particular signal, event time, as well as getting into the overview. Now, some folks want to get even deeper. They want to see the full details. That's great. Others want to export it, maybe download it as a CSV or as a JSON. Others like to look at it as the raw log data point. And that allows you to get that out and use it in a different particular, maybe another piece of tradecraft or tool that you're already accustomed to and are trusting and enjoying. We've made this as flexible and as customizable as possible, and integrating with your existing data sources and workflows. And speaking of workflows, when you're looking at different IP addresses and entity information and MAC addresses and host names, you'll hover and you'll see these little 6 dots, these little blue dots show up next to something. That is actually our little context actions. And when you click on those dots, I'm greeted with a direct search. I can do a keyword search across all my insights and the signals and entities in Sumo Logic for that particular IP address or whatever that element was that I was getting context on. So I'm not doing a bunch of queries here. I'm not having to dig into the main Sumo Logic user interface and rely on my Sumo query language skill set. This is just point and click. I could also search all the records that we have in the Sumo Logic in the environment for that same IP address, 192.168.1.101. But we've taken it a step further. We also have this set up as a launching vehicle for normally in your tradecraft, and maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, you're going to go through and have a bunch of tabs open. You've got all your favorite tradecraft websites and tools that you rely on, your whois lookups, you're you're scratching on your scratch pad, writing down IP addresses and MAC addresses, and you're trying to, in your head and in your mind and using your experience that you've developed, you're correlating this manually. And that can take time. And here what we've done is we've been able to actually bring all that together in an insight. Then you're able to dig down into any particular piece of information, in this case, an IP address. And I could set up all of these actions customizable to point out to any of the tools that I normally use, going out to Shodan, recorded future, looking up virus total, or even looping right back into Sumo Logic and doing a search. So these are all preset, ready to go, and it'll fire open a new tab in my browser and go right to that. So this is really I can't say it better than to say that this is your central source and launching pad to then do your investigation workflows. Why do we do it this way? This is all in an attempt to take what normally might be a manual procedure or process and workflow and try to just automate that and smooth that out. Now, I keep saying the word automation. I don't want you folks to get the sense that this is our SOAR capabilities. That's separate. That's actually when you're going to be automating the response and the actions and the orchestration of all of these different elements together. This is really just figuring out how to automatically triage and surface these insights and prioritize them for you, and then also help enrich data. I know we're running short on time here, but we've got network monitoring sensors. In fact, it might show up in some of these here from Zeek, formerly Bro Network sensor that comes with the product. And so we're getting rich metadata from your network traffic. We've got sensors collectors for your Active Directory. So we're pulling in information about logins and user information and bringing all that together in this one spot. And that's what speeds things up. We're taking things that might have taken 4 hours to investigate a threat or more, maybe days for some organizations, depending on their experience levels and the number of staff that they've got. We're bringing this down to just a handful of minutes here. I'm actually taking longer trying to explain how and why this system works than it'll take our actual analysts who use this product every single day. So if you can appreciate, I'm digging down and seeing all the details of this one particular signal, but I can pull back and look at some of the other signals that this insight had. A threat intel match based on domain name. Again, it was a severity of 2. But the big item that came through that's just made this insight over the top for this particular entity, which was this user, Deb.Smith, all this stuff is happening to Deb's system, apparently, to her entity, to her as a person, as a user. And it was this Sentinel-1. So apparently we've got Sentinel-1 feed coming in. We've invested in Sentinel-1. A malicious keylogger was detected. That has a severity of 8. That's a total of 13. That's more than 12. That's what fired this insight. Now, when I realized that, okay, I trust Sumo, we've identified it correctly. All the signals were firing. Now, how do I take action? Well, when this insight was created, you have the option of automatically taking an action or have them set up here in an on-demand feature. So you could actually be just clicking your way through. Maybe you've already invested in a SOAR from Demisto. Maybe you haven't gotten to the Sumo Logic Cloud SOAR yet. That's fine. Don't throw that old solution away, not just yet. Maybe Slack, PagerDuty, ServiceNow, setting up ticketing and such, or AWS notification. All those actions could be clicked and taken right here. And also, when I know that I'm ready to close an insight because I need to move on to the next one, you just close out the insight, you choose what the resolution is. It was a duplicate, maybe it was a false positive, maybe there was no action required, or it was resolved. And with the new, more granular functionality we added a couple of months ago, you can have different multiple items inside of these resolutions, like child relationships, more granular reasons for closing out an insight. And so here I've got a category root access was the resolution. Maybe this is remediation, or it was sent to a particular team. So you've resolved it, but then you're adding more color as to how or why it was resolved. And this all creates a record for you folks so that you can chase it back later and track back historically of how these insights were closed, why you closed it, giving you and your analysts more historical remembrance, knowledge of what these types of attacks have been. Let alone, you could be tagging and creating comments on these insights too, to be much more granular. And you could be searching for your tags at a later moment, like, okay, wasn't there something that happened with this particular attack? If it was a particular ransomware attack or a particular man in the middle or supply chain attack, you could be actually looking for that and searching, and you'd be searching right up here in the search bar at the top of the screen. So this is really a quick look in the a day in the life, going through insights. And again, it's just the target's always on your back. You just got to move on to the next one, move on to the next one. So let's switch back again. I'll go back to the slides. I wanted to explain one other item here to you, because this whole time that I've been talking about a Cloud SIEM, that it's built on a cloud native platform, and we are native in AWS. But we've got deployments across all of these different regions. And depending on where you are coming from today, I wanted to make sure that you had a visual of where your data can be. And this global presence enables us to deliver the low latency to where your data is stored, along with helping you adhere to your local data residency and regulatory requirements as well. So at this time, I'm going to check the Q&A panel right now so I can answer any questions that you might have asked along the way. Feel free, if you want, you can snap this QR code with your phone. That'll easily bring up our Cloud SIEM webpage on your phone, and you can read more about the solution as well. So with that, I'm just going to do a quick check here. Okay, looks like we've got one question here. Is this a separate solution from Sumo Logic? Great question. What I've been demonstrating for you today is our Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM solution. But with that user interface and that purpose-built workflows, specifically for SOC and security analysts, that is also showing our Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on. So generally, if you want a full-blown SIEM and a cloud-delivered SaaS SIEM from Sumo Logic, it's the core platform, Sumo Logic platform, with that Cloud SIEM Enterprise add-on. And I encourage you to talk to your authorized Sumo Logic reseller or one of our own sales reps if you want more information about adding that if you're already a Sumo customer. Another question here. Can we query records as well, not just signals? Thanks in advance. Yes, great question. You can query the records when you're in the user interface. In fact, there was that little context actions I clicked on, which allows you to actually click on records. So really, no SQL, and by SQL, I mean Sumo query language. I'm not typing up a query. I was just clicking and looking for pieces of data that I'm investigating, and doing it with one-click access brings up my records window, and it then filters out and shows the search for wherever that IP address or that host name or whatever that piece of intel that I was looking at would also be in my records, as well as you could be searching for signals. And in Sumo Logic, in the core platform, you've got full unfettered access to perform search for any piece of information that you want. But that's when you do have to start getting into using our Sumo query language and using one of our multiple different operators. But with the ability with our machine learning technology, log reduce and log compare or time compare. That allows you to whittle down thousands of pages of data that you might get on a return for a query and bring that down to get rid of the redundancies and show you the deltas of what really matters. And that's the using log reduce, or doing a 24-hour time comparison, like what is happening on that entity today, what was there 24 hours ago. And that allows you within your data of the query results to actually spot these differences. So great question. I don't see any other questions at this time, so we'll go ahead and close this out. Really, thank you, I want to say, for your time today. If there was any other further questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm Dana Torgersen, Director of Product Marketing for our Security Business Unit here at Sumo Logic. If you also want to reach out to our sales team, it's sales@sumologic.com, or you can contact your authorized Sumo Logic reseller as well. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and have a great day.